Hey, what's up, folks? So Elon Musk says he's going to sue the Anti-Defamation League for falsely accusing him of anti-Semitism and trying to destroy his business. The Anti-Defamation League is an international Jewish non-governmental organization based in the United States that claims to focus on combating anti-Semitism and extremism. Yet recently they've been trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. We're going to look into it, talk about it. God bless you. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road, let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. Tomorrow, just reminding you guys, I have an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 p.m. midday Eastern time. I hope you guys stay tuned to check it out. Let's look at the story for today, because Elon Musk is taking on a very powerful organization that is basically trying to destroy his business, calling him an anti-Semite, or perhaps hinting he's anti-Semitic, smearing the entire platform of X, also known as Twitter. And that seems to be what this organization does when people do not cave to all of their censorship demands, although I'm sure they'll argue that they're not doing that, but that's my perception. Anyway, let's look at the tweet real quick. Elon Musk said on Twitter today, to clear our platform's name on the matter of anti-Semitism, it looks like we have no choice but to file a defamation lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League. Oh, the irony, he says. And then we're going to look a little more into it. He has a lot of tweets on his Twitter about it. It's been quite the week of him battling the ADL, metaphorically. Elon said, since the acquisition, the ADL has been trying to kill this platform by falsely accusing it and me of being anti-Semitic. Our U.S. advertising revenue is still down 60%, primarily due to the pressure on advertisers by the Anti-Defamation League. That's what advertisers tell us, so they almost succeeded in killing X and Twitter. He's got a lot of tweets about this, but just to wrap it up and not get too boring with it, you know, Elon all week has been talking about the Anti-Defamation League because, as he said there, apparently they're going on behind the scenes trying to get rid of advertisers saying he's anti-Semitic, the platform's anti-Semitic, there's too much anti-Semitism. And he's even tweeted something saying that he believes that they're the biggest purveyor of generating anti-Semitism because they're so annoying and they exaggerate so much that it's actually doing a lot of damage to the cause, which I would say I pretty much agree with. And this is interesting on many levels. I guess I'll start with just the news angle of it. It's a big deal. A lot of people don't know the Anti-Defamation League, or maybe you've heard them, but if you look up their Wikipedia, they are a non-governmental international Jewish organization founded by B'nai B'rith, which is some sort of Jewish secret society, according to Wikipedia, but not that secret because it's not secret enough to not be on Wikipedia. So I don't know how secret it is anymore. But anyway, you know, they masquerade as like some sort of Jewish organization fighting hate of some sort, but also they have a very left-wing skew. They seem to have double standards and hypocrisy when it comes to other ethnic groups that I would just say, you know, they have interesting like hate speech rules when it comes to white and certain numbers and symbols. Like they just go all over the place and just pretty much, I would say, reach, for lack of a better word. I want to read this real quick because Mike Cernovich posted this on Twitter. I found it interesting. He wrote, when Iceland was going to ban male circumcision, the Anti-Defamation League threatened to falsely smear Iceland, writing a menacing letter. And this is part of the letter he references. It says, given that 28% of Iceland's tourists came from North America in 2016, Iceland's standing in the U.S. should be of great concern from an economic perspective. We are confident that the vast majority of American tourists will avoid a country whose reputation is associated with Nazism, even if that association is not justified. I didn't know if I was going to go live today, but I decided to. But anyway, long story short, they're like kind of low-key threatening Iceland because they're banning male circumcision as if it's their responsibility to keep that there. Just a very bizarre and interesting organization. I mean, you could look into the story more. I would say this to keep it somewhat brief. I don't want to stay too long today, but I did want to report on this. You know, the Anti-Defamation League, I've seen some of the things they've said, some of the things they've done, their politics, their worldview on race and religion. And I find them to be quite the menacing organization. They're constantly slandering, defaming, smearing, I would say exaggerating. And then I just don't think it helps the cause of getting people to like other people more, to stop racial or religious tension. Pretty much everything they do, in my opinion, just makes it worse. They're I don't know who to even compare them to, but they've been on my radar for years, just seeing the type of stuff they say and do. And the same thing that's happening to Elon Musk, where they're smearing him as an anti-Semite, trying to destroy their business. This has happened to me too, not from the Anti-Defamation League, but from other Jewish organizations, and also just Jewish figures. Not all, obviously. I never want to say that because it's not true. I have a lot of great, Jewish friends, allies, peers, etc., people that I trust and respect. So I'm not ever saying it's everyone, because it's not. But there are organizations that are Jewish organizations that have said Anomaly's anti-Semitic. He's this, he's that. Someone tried to tie me to a violent attack in Texas and say that I'm similar because I'm white and partly Hispanic, and that person was partly Hispanic, and they're trying to, do this like white Hispanic, whatever, like just some weird racial narrative where they're trying to tie everyone conservative that's not liberal, that has even 1% Hispanic in them, to like the most violent, crazy person ever. So I've already been under, I would say, a smear that is very similar to what Elon's doing. And I decided not to sue or anything. I mean, I'm not an overly litigious person. I don't mind if you say something I disagree with. Everyone has an opinion. But when you start trying to tie me to real life events that are like crimes that I have nothing to do with, that's when it starts getting a little weird, in my opinion. And with Elon, he has a multi-billion-dollar business to run, and they're basically trying to destroy his business because he won't cave on every single one of their demands. So I have my eyes peeled on this as well. I'm not going to name names because I don't feel like getting into drama or anything, but the organization that smeared me and called me an anti-Semite, they're currently being sued by someone else that they did that to. So with me, I have better things to do. I don't think it really did too much damage to me. I mean, obviously, I think it did some to my character, but I don't have time to sue. I don't want to sue. I don't want to sit in court. It's annoying to me. So I do find it interesting when people do sue on this, because my eyes are peeled. To see what the results are. Long story short, I believe in free speech. And when it comes to free speech, there is a fine line between defaming and not, especially when it comes to businesses. So we'll see how the courts react on this. The ADL has already lost lawsuits in the past, and I'm sure a lot of people have. Let's see what happens. I definitely am going to watch it because this determines a lot. I do believe in free speech, but I think it's insane that so many of these groups are constantly trying to smear and lie and exaggerate, and then say that that it's hate speech to say that they're exaggerating. And it's just too much. It's just too much. It's not good for anybody. It's not healthy for the human race. And, people need to be able to stand up for themselves and say, hey, stop lying about me. So seems like that's what Elon's doing. He's rich. He's powerful. He has a lot more resources than most people do to fight this sort of stuff in court. So we'll see what happens. And I want to say there is a fine line between an opinion, defamation, and then a hate speech law. If you go to certain countries, they have hate speech laws that are just vehemently anti-American in every sense of the word. You can't talk about the rainbow people or they'll come knock on your door. You can't say this, you can't say that. You can't talk about immigration, or they say it's a hate speech offense and they get the law enforcement involved. So we don't want to become one of those countries, whether it be in Europe, whether it be the shell of what Canada once was. In America, we have to, I believe, not give up any sort of ground when people try to infiltrate on your First Amendment, because it's a very important document that's very rare in human history. And one thing that a lot of conservatives don't understand, and I say conservatives because obviously liberals are bad on free speech at this point in time, but conservatives don't understand that Trump, DeSantis, and the Republican Party are actually trying so hard to pass speech legislation to make the First Amendment a shell of what it once was. And they do it under the guise of anti-Semitism. Ron DeSantis passed an anti-Semitism bill. I believe it was in 2019. He flew over to Israel, and it was the first ever Florida bill passed on foreign soil, because why would the governor of Florida be passing bills in foreign countries. That's weird, isn't it? It is weird, but when it's Israel, nobody says anything and they don't care and they call you an anti-Semite if you disagree with it. But the reason I disagree with Ron DeSantis' 2019 bill, it's not because I'm anti-Semitic. It's not because I hate anybody. It's because I read the bill and it starts to pervert the word anti-Semitism. And now instead of 3 things, it means 30 things. And you could read on the State Department website, if you Google State Department define anti-Semitism, you could find statedepartment.gov has defining anti-Semitism, and they have a new working definition that they're pushing all over the government. Trump is pushing it. DeSantis is pushing it. I'm sure Democrats are pushing it. The Republican Party is pretty much completely in on it, and they'll cry if you ever say this. This is why my name still gets smeared in conservative circles. Even some loser, I'm not going to say who it was, don't feel like the drama, but some loser told Roseanne, oh, don't talk to Anomaly, Roseanne. He's anti-Semitic. He hates Jews. And she's like, no, he doesn't. I've hung out with her. Like, Roseanne's a good friend of mine. I've hung out with her. I know her family. She knows that that's not true. Everyone knows that that's not true, but that's still the rumor going on in right-wing circles. And I believe the way that that got originated was because I started talking about these speech laws. I said, hey, just because I love you and just because I don't hate anybody because of their race or religion doesn't mean I think we should pass lopsided speech laws that start to define anti-Semitism as 1,000 things. Imagine if they passed, this is the best example I could do to explain it to people. Imagine if they passed a George Floyd hate speech racist bill where you couldn't talk about crime rate or that was considered racist. You couldn't talk about differences in cultures. They'd say it's racist. You couldn't ever criticize somebody from a different country. They'd say it's racist. It's not, I'm not asking people to hate people. I don't think anger and hate is a good thing to hold on to. I'm just saying, as an American citizen, you should want the freedom to be able to speak about patterns that you see. And everybody should have the right to discuss, debate, and say things that they want to say when it comes to opinions and perspectives. So any sort of bill that infringes on your First Amendment and starts trying to define words as like 30 different things, it's a no-go. And long story short, Republicans have been, through Trump and DeSantis, have been passing this into legislation. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, or you don't believe me, or you don't want to know, or you just don't want to hear it because you just want to fight Joe Biden's laptop or whatever, Google anti-Semitism State Department definition, and that is the working definition that government is trying to push through. And it isn't just one thing. It's like 40 different things. It says you can't compare Israel, any policy that the Israelis do, to Nazis. You can't talk about patterns in banking and media. That's anti-Semitism. You can't talk about people killing Jesus. Like these are like laws that they're trying to pass into legislation, the Republican Party, under the guise of fighting hate speech. But it's the same thing as the Anti-Defamation League. We don't want hate. We don't want anger. We obviously don't want violence or crime or anything like that. But in order to get to this point, first of all, we have to be realistic with what's going on, and we can't just rip the tongue out of people. We have to have self-accountability, self-awareness. We have to be able to have tough conversations. And when you keep doing stuff and not allowing people to talk about it, people just start to naturally get annoyed, and it's not a good thing. But groups like the ADL, it's like, are you really trying to fight hate, or are you trying to create hate? There's a lot of racial leaders like that in all races where they're running around basically grifting off of their race and saying they're trying to fight, racism, but they're creating so much of it. And I'm not saying there's an excuse for it. I'm just saying they're creating so much by being so fake and so annoying. And it's like, are you really trying to stop it? Or is that the economy that you operate off of? Like someone like Al Sharpton, for instance, has he been able to lower hate? I don't know. Or has he been able to make a career off of it? And at what point does he want it and what point does he not? And I don't know. I can't get into Al Sharpton's heart and see who he really is. But at a certain point, I do question the motives of certain groups and certain people, where it's hard to tell if they really want to stop it and make the country better, or if they want a full-time activist career. And in order to have that full-time activist career, they need to exploit every event that happens and, not necessarily put a kibosh on it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Tomorrow, my interview comes out with Vivek Ramaswamy. It's going to be live. Hopefully, I don't disappoint you. Hopefully, no one disappoints you. I mean, the whole reason I'm doing the interview tomorrow is because I just, no disrespect to my peers. There's a lot of people that I'm friends with and I respect that did what they wanted to do. But personally, as not only a news journalist or video analyst, content creator, whatever, I don't really care what you call me, Facebook guy. I'm not really impressed with like anybody's interview. It's like they ask a question, he responds, I don't believe it, they just move on. And I'm not a hater in any means, but when someone's running for the president of the United States, I would like to see people do a better job. And I'm stepping up to do the job that I want to see. And hopefully you enjoy it. I got a lot of interesting questions. I'm going to be as fair and reasonable as I can. Whether you think I'm going to do a great job or a terrible job, whether you think I'm going to get owned or whatever, I hope you tune in tomorrow, because I'm doing this for the American people, and I'm doing this just to do my job. I don't think a lot of people are doing their job anymore. They're just kind of like hanging out and doing bare minimum. And I see it differently. So I'm going to put everything I've said on the line and just ask good questions and try to really, get some stuff out there that wasn't out there and challenge people. That's when you see the best of them. So that's tomorrow. To wrap up this story, God bless you guys. I appreciate you. Elon Musk is suing the Anti-Defamation League because he claims that they're trying to ruin Twitter because they're trying to stick anti-Semitism on Twitter. And here's what I have to say. When it comes to the word racist and anti-Semitic, obviously they're overused nowadays. They're exaggerated. And when you exaggerate on these words, then the word doesn't mean anything anymore and nobody cares. Like if you said racist 10 years ago, people were like, where? Now it's not that people don't care. It's just that people don't believe you anymore. You've said it so many times, like, oh, if you vote for Trump, you're a racist. If you eat, white rice instead of brown rice, you're a racist. Nobody believes it anymore. So it doesn't have the power that it has. And that's turning into anti-Semitism. But what I would say is the difference, and maybe this is happening with the word racist too, is they're changing the definition of anti-Semitism and passing that definition through legislation. Ron DeSantis has passed it through legislation. Donald Trump has passed it through legislation, and nobody cares because the Republican Party's under a spell. When their side does it, they don't matter because like low IQ Republican influencers are like, look, Joe Biden's old. It's like, yeah, he is old. He sucks. I'm not voting for him. But that doesn't mean that the two-party uniparty isn't scamming you, including the people that you think aren't scamming you. I know it sounds crazy, but it's been happening. And I would say that the reason Elon, my guess, is probably suing is because they're not just smearing him and saying, oh, he's hateful. He's been called hateful a million times. Why is he suing the Anti-Defamation League, but perhaps not everybody who smears him? It's because the way the economy of anti-Semitism works is a little more complex because there's different laws, different rules. They've expanded the definition. They have a lot of organizations. So when they do stuff like this, it's not just like, oh, we don't like you. We're going to talk bad about you. It's like there's a systemic really like uprooting of the company where it's like, we're going to crush your advertisers. We're going to run around, and they have connections to pretty much, most, I would say businesses at this point. I don't know how many people believe them and respect them, but I know that they've been around for a long, long time. And they've pretty much, built relationships with a lot of the major companies in this country. If they come after you and they say you're this, it's not simply them just calling you a word. It's like them systemically just trying to destroy your business, suck all the money out of it, and then make everybody like pull away from you. And with I don't know how this is going to go in the courts, but with the laws that are being passed, I'm not saying that they're there and like you can't say stuff. You still have your First Amendment. But if you read Ron DeSantis's school bill, it's very bizarre. Ron DeSantis passed an anti-Semitism school bill that he said is for religious freedom, but it's not for religious freedom because it doesn't include every religion. It only includes one religion. And in Ron DeSantis's anti-Semitism religion bill, it also provides protection for non-religious Jewish people. So it's really more of an ethnic bill, but it doesn't provide protection for all ethnicities. And then when it comes to what they mean by anti-Semitism, there's a whole working definition of like 30 things that they're basically saying this is hate speech. You can't say this. And it's not just like, oh, don't hate those people, don't be mean. It's like a very complex list of like, you can't criticize Israel. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't criticize them more than another democratic nation. And I'm not saying you should, but it's like if I criticize Ukraine more than I criticize Japan, it doesn't mean I hate Ukraine more than Japan. It just means Ukraine is more central to Americans' policy right now. And I don't hate Ukraine, but I talk about Ukraine more than Japan because Japan's just not doing that much. But why would you want the government being able to police which countries you can and can't criticize to what amount? That's what Ron DeSantis is passing through legislation for schools. Donald Trump passed it through executive order on college campuses. And then Ron DeSantis followed up with another bill, which is, I would say criminalizing to a higher level flyers that people leave on public property, or I'm sorry, private property. But here's the interesting thing about that. A lot of people say he's just trying to stop bad people and make it a high crime so they don't litter on someone's private property. But the funny thing about that is I heard Ron DeSantis in some sort of interview. He was talking about how he thinks that Republicans should leave flyers on Democrats who come to Florida. And he's like, leave a flyer on their car that says, if you've moved to Florida and you're a Democrat, you should change your policy or whatever. So it's like Ron DeSantis is literally telling his supporters, you should put papers and flyers on private property and other people's property when it comes to Democrat and Republican, yet he's trying to criminalize to an even higher level if people do it for other things. So he's, once again, it's just like, why don't we make it illegal to do that too? And then what you just said is like a felony or some sort of a crime. I'm not for putting anything on people's private property. Let's be clear. I don't do that. I'm not interested in it, but it's like criminalizing a flyer is a slippery slope. If you want to do that, sure. But if someone passes out stuff and they're trying to sell something and now you put them in prison for it, or you put them in court, I mean, that's for him to decide. But long story short, I'm just saying there needs to be a conversation about it. But usually when you have a conversation about this, you just get called an anti-Semite, not just from the left wing and not just from Anti-Defamation League, who is a Jewish organization, but they are heavily left-wing skewed. They're not, a lot of conservative Jewish people can't stand them. But also on the right, I've told people this for a while, and I don't necessarily care because I don't need a handout. I don't care who likes me. I'm not in the business of like giving a crap at this point. But there's a lot of talk behind the scenes that you guys don't see, even though the funny part is I have thousands upon tens of thousands of Jewish supporters. I have tens of thousands of people watching my channel from Israel, and they respect me because when they were facing vaccine mandates, I actually talked about it, unlike these other losers. So they know that I actually care about them. But long story short, you don't see behind the scenes how many people are trying to destroy my career and my integrity and my character by calling me an anti-Semite. This happens not just from left-wing organizations that have smeared me and put out email blasts, but it's happened from right-wing people too. I know people personally that I've never met in my life, that I've never spoken to, that are there trying to stop me from talking on podcasts because they say that I hate them, even though I've never met them and I've never shown any signs of that. I'm just for free speech. I'm against any sort of legislation that impedes on it. And I also don't have to like everything ever. Like if I don't like BLM and I don't like Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean I hate Africa. It doesn't, if I criticize an African country, it doesn't mean I hate the people there. If I question the government of this is what they do with Israel and Jewish stuff. Everybody runs around behind the scenes and says, oh, he hates everyone. I don't hate everybody. I don't have hate. I'm not a weirdo. Like I've met so many good people to realize that if you hate America, I hope you don't hate me. Like a lot of people hate America. A lot of countries hate America because of what we've done in the world. And I pray that they look at me and say, hey, I don't like the government of America and I don't like some American people, but I don't hate them all. I hope people don't hate me based on my race and religion. And I do the same to others. I don't look at any country, any religion, any race and like count anyone out. It's like there's good people all over the world. And then there's not so good people all over the world, including in my own race, my own religion, in my own country. And also it's one of those things where it's like there's differences that you don't have to like. I like reggae music. You don't have to like reggae music. If you don't like rap music, you're not racist. You might just not like it. You know what I'm saying? So there's nuance in this world that everybody doesn't have to like everything about everybody. And it's like no one does. They just pretend like they do. And some of the biggest hypocrites that run activist organizations, sometimes they're projecting their hate for you. Sometimes they hate your race. Sometimes they hate your religion with passion, but they don't admit it. So they run around acting like everyone else is doing it. And I'm just not that type of person. I think being a hater is like, it's like a deficiency to some point. You don't have to like everything, but I think God gave you the ability to do what you love and be who you are. Someone said people don't like certain parts of it, but to each their own. That's just my opinion. So long story short, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Tomorrow, Vivek Ramaswamy comes on my channel live, and I will be doing a live interview. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. I really have done my work to try to do the best interview that I can tomorrow. And I hope you guys tune in. It's 9:30 a.m. Western time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So midday, 12:30 on the East, 9:30 a.m. on the West. I'm excited for it. Let me know, what do you think about this? What do you think about Elon suing the Anti-Defamation League? Do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's going to lose? Do you think this is waking a lot of people up to this sort of situation? Because it's been happening for a long time, but it's been happening for years now too. And it comes to, or I would say when it comes to activist groups and groups that are hiding behind race and religion, just trying to, shift the culture of America in the sense of like, say there's Twitter and X doesn't want to do everything that Facebook and YouTube is doing. They don't want to censor as much. They don't want to draw the line that all these places are drawing. They're trying to do it more constitutional. And then they basically just come after you and try to twist it like you're a hateful person. And I believe the reason that they're doing this with Elon is because Elon, I'm not saying he's not like controlled at all or something. Some people hate Elon, some people like him. But when it comes to this topic, Elon's been very consistent. And I would say Elon has done more in certain cases than the entire GOP. When it comes to COVID-19, Elon Musk was telling the truth about COVID, in my view, early, when Trump was lying about it, when Trump was sold out, when Trump and the GOP was doing nothing. Elon went on Joe Rogan's podcast May of 2020, and he told the truth. I mean, honestly, as somebody that was crunching the numbers, I didn't see any of these doofus Republican influencers that are just doofing around, just regurgitating Trump. I didn't see any of them saying the tough truth about what was going on, the data, et cetera, how they were counting the deaths and cases. And Elon did that. Like, he really went out there and did that at a time that no one was doing that. I appreciate it. When it comes to X and Twitter, it's not perfect. It's not the greatest platform in the world as far as free speech. I think Gab probably draws a thicker line than they do. But when it comes to mainstream platforms, Elon is for sure pushing the boundaries of what has been done. He's forcing Facebook to pay out people more. They had a bonus platform that was mirroring what X and Twitter did, paying people for, ads just on their regular posts. So he's definitely, it seems like in the social media world, I'm not saying he's your best friend or anything, but he's definitely holding his ground more than I've ever seen anyone do that. So I personally appreciate anytime he does stuff like this. It's the same reason I used to like Trump when Trump was kind of pushing the boundaries, because if they come after you or they call you this name or they smear your character, it's kind of hard to do something about it. If you don't have a multi-billion-dollar business, if you don't have money, if you don't have lawyers on retainer, it's not so easy to deal with. But when you're Elon Musk and they push Elon and then he kind of responds to it, it's a big deal because Elon is the richest person on earth. Elon has lawyers. Elon has the time. Elon's not going to bend over and just say no. So I think it's like I'm not going to overhype it, but it is a historic case of some sorts because, this type of stuff has been going on for a long time to a lot of people, and not everybody, can make a huge news story out of it because nobody really cares. When it comes to Elon, it's like if you go on X, all of it, there was a ban the ADL hashtag. People were starting to like look into like what exactly they're doing, what their website says. I don't want to get into all of it, but they got like numbers and like it says like Christ, like, it's a lot of like anti-Christian stuff. And I'm not crying and saying, oh, they're anti-Christian, we need to pass laws. I'm just saying like, it's a very bizarre organization with a lot of bizarre symbols and images that they outlaw. Obviously, there's the obvious ones, but they go way too far on a lot of topics. So I think it's now mainstream. Everybody knows about it. And it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. I appreciate Elon for standing his ground, and we'll see what happens. Tomorrow's the interview. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. I got to really do research and prepare myself and not be too tired. Even today, I feel like I'm a little tired because I didn't expect to go live, but enjoy your Labor Day. Enjoy your fall, and I will see you in less than, 16, 17 hours tomorrow. It should be a great interview, and I'm really excited about it. See you guys. God bless you. I'll be back.